during the week that I was on vacation, but and these addendums there, this is the third addendum, and of course none of the addendums have been voted by the Board of Selectmen. So I'm not sure that it is absolutely required that the board vote to ratify. You're going to have the opportunity to award a contract as a result of these proposals, and we do specifications and bids, solicitation on your behalf all the time. But it is a particular vote that happened during the vacation period, and I put forth in this form of a suggestion that the board might want to ratify it. It was there were suggestions that came to the town council from Barbara Hansberry, the general counsel of the Office of Inspector General, at his request. He had requested, the town council had requested on August 8th that they review the town's RFP and that and offer any suggestions or ways that it could be improved. And she wrote back saying that she suggested that we omit the town omit the complicated numerical scoring system, which other people had commented on, and during the course of reviewing it. And when it came to be known, Barbara Hansberry said that it has been the IG's office policy not to use a numerical system, and that was not known to us. So that scoring system was modified to that effect. Now, I should let John speak to this, and rather than my saying what happened while I was on vacation.
You're doing fine so far. First of all, Mrs. Agostino, this is my partner, Kevin Feely.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
And I'm not sure the rest of you are aware that as of August 21st, effective January 1, Kevin is a partner, and Murphy has equal in my hands. So.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
As John said, I requested review by the Inspector General. When I was away on vacation, Kevin had the RFP hand-delivered to the Inspector General because we had received a lot of comments, both at meetings here from board members and from members of the public. And rather than address them piecemeal, it seemed to me to be the appropriate way to do it was, why don't we ask the agency that reviews these things, and let's get a concise answer one way or another, particularly where they had expressed an interest in the legislation. They did that, and on August 28th, their general counsel, Barbara Hansberry, responded with a letter to me and Kevin, making recommendations that they felt would make it more compatible with the spirit of Chapter 30B. And essentially, they had 5 suggestions that I'll summarize briefly. John has already summarized one of them very well, but the first suggestion was that they asked us to definitively state that the town is interested in proposals to cap the landfill and develop the site for recreational purposes, including the construction and maintenance of 2 athletic fields in exchange for a long-term lease. To be frank, I thought we had already done that, but I didn't see any problem in restating it, so that's the first item in the addendum. Item number one, addendum 3 that you've received.
Can you,
the second?
Can we
Yes,
stop
sure.
and just question
Sure.
on that?
Yeah.
How is the wording changed here from what was in the RFP? Does it give any closer tie that you could not submit a proposal to simply close and cap the landfill? Or
No,
to,
Go
it
ahead, I'm
clarifies it better then?
Yes.
So you still have the option, but more clearly stated.
Yeah, let me read it to you. The town is interested without limitation in proposals to cap the landfill and develop the site for recreational purposes in exchange for a long-term lease, including the construction and maintenance of 2 ball fields. That's why I felt it clarified what was already there, but
There was your suggestion.
yes. the suggestion of the attorney. The second suggestion was to specify the length of the lease. Again, I thought we had done that because we cited the statute, but we added, and I thought it was fine to clarify that. The legislation for the lease of the landfill, I'm sorry, I'm reading from our addenda, item 2. The legislation for the lease of the landfill property currently being considered by the legislature allows the town to enter into a lease agreement for 50 years. That's the maximum term. It also allows you to consider one of less than 50 years, but that's the open end, that's the maximum term, and I didn't see any problem with specifying that. The third suggestion was to specify that the proposed lease price will be a factor in selecting a proposal, thereby letting the market determine how much Milton will receive for the lease. Again, it was intended to be in the cost proposal section, but it certainly was reasonable to clarify that. So item 3 in the agenda says, any rent or other consideration paid to or received by the town as part of a lease agreement will be a factor in the selection of a proposal. The fourth suggestion was to rewrite the experience criterion to require both capping experience and experience with post-use development. That one I thought was an attempt to clarify what experience we required. And it seemed to dovetail with several comments, including comments made by the board. So what Bruce Haskell and I did was to consolidate some of the other wording to make it plain, number one, that the experience you want to see has to be from either the proposer or whoever the entity is that's going to be involved, whether it's a joint venture or a subcontractor, because you know there were lengthy discussions about that. And the highly advantageous criterion is someone who has experience in both, because that's what you said in the beginning. The next highest criterion is someone that has experience in either one or the other. The next highest criterion, which is not advantageous, is someone who has experience in neither, but has experience in a related project. And the least advantageous or unacceptable criterion is someone who has experience neither in closing and capping nor in post-closure use and has no related experience. So it seemed to clarify what you had already said, that you wanted an experienced proposer, but fine to clarify. The last suggestion was to eliminate the numerical rating system and cost review methodology. And the sentence, the letter says, price proposals can be evaluated simply by simply comparing the present values of the proposed lease prices. So what the addendum does is delete all the references to to points. And you'll see in item 4 and item 5, deleting 2 sections, and item 6, deleting the references to points. What it did not do is take out those criteria that were important to every member of the board, I think, including no traffic in Milton. Those kinds of things are still in here. So if you get a proposal of whatever nature that's going to come down Pleasant Street, well, it's not acceptable. If it's going to come down Milton, it's less acceptable, but better than the other. If you get something that's not going to come in Milton at all, it's most acceptable of 3. Those types of issues are still in the RFP. It's just that the point system is out of it. And also, we basically put in the language that you're required to follow anyway under 30B, that each proposal shall be evaluated based solely on the criteria set forth in this request for proposals. And each evaluation, meaning each evaluation by the town, shall specify in writing for each evaluation criterion a rating of each proposal as highly advantageous, advantageous, not advantageous, or unacceptable, and the reasons for the rating, and a composite rating for each proposal and the reasons for that rating. That basically tracks the statute to say what you should do anyway. Now, the timing of this was such that it came up, I believe it was on a Thursday, late in the day when I got it. Friday is when I addressed it. Apparently the cart is before the horse in the sense that you, the Board of Selectmen, were not aware of that at that time. I guess I have to take part of the blame for that. I mistakenly assumed that that was not the case, so to the extent that I contributed to that, I apologize. I discovered that on Tuesday, at the earliest, you found out about it. It seemed to me that given your timing on your proposal opening, and given the fact that this request came from the Inspector General and had some teeth in it, that number one, it really wasn't the type of thing you wanted to fight about. So number two, you really should do it. And number three, you didn't have a lot of time to do it. And anyway, that's why it happened when it did. And it's on the agenda tonight to ask that you ratify the fact that it was done, since you are the awarding authority. And, you know, we appreciate their input. I mean, they did take the time. They don't have to do this, but in response to our request, they reviewed a lengthy document and gave us some assistance on how to clarify it.
I do think we appreciate their suggestions. That's, I think, an extra function of their agency to
Yes.
not only watch over these things, but actually make suggestions to towns to do it, you know, for the best results.
If it helps your potential proposers, and
Right.
gives you
Everyone is
clearer and better.
We have clearer language, and I think, as you said, these items were covered, but the language is now much more specific and much more to the point, and I think
Yes.
it's probably helpful to the proposers, and certainly as I review it, I agree that it was all there, but the wording on this is very, very specific and clear.
But there's really nothing that bidders or potential bidders are affected by in this. I mean, they get rid of a complicated number system, but it didn't get rid of the intent for ranking them by those things that are considered to be highly desirable. So that remains. I mean, it really isn't a substantive change from the bidder's point of view. I don't see. All the changes are internal for the town, the Board of Selectmen in making the award.
We still will have to rank them, even though it's not going to be by a point system.
Yes, that's right.
Well, I think the timing frankly could have been better. I mean, they had this thing on August 8th, and to take as long as they did to do this thing, I don't think it's helpful. At the same time, I also would comment that in our own packets that we received last night, if you look at this magazine we received, it talks about exactly the opposite. Best value calls for ranking proposals based on a weighted average of scores on all criteria stated in a solicitation. So, this is from municipal government. This is the time-honored method of awarding contracts is getting renewed scrutiny as local governments look at new methods. So the new method is to rank. So we get the material last night that in the same packet contradicts what our advice is. So I agree basically with the chairman is saying. At the same time, it seems to me it's fairly late in the process and contradictory to the practice of ranking proposals, whether you be in any enterprise.
I guess you have to choose your spots to fight, and this may not have been the right one. And, in other contexts, maybe we would have been on the cutting edge of the industry, but apparently not in the view of this agency and this particular item. So we weren't left with a lot of options here.
And I think that certainly rather than discuss this or postpone the addendum going out until we were able to meet this week, I think you acted knowing that there are certain time constraints. There was an article in the Ledger last night saying that the award that may give the material to Quarry Hills may be within the next 2 weeks. And you know, we don't have a lot of time to play around with. We really have to keep this process moving because it's the central artery that's setting the time schedule, not the Board of Selectmen in Milton.
Was a motion?
I would move to ratify.
Well, I have many comments regarding this process, and as the member of the board is probably being viewed all the time as being the most, cautious from readily agreeing with everything that's done with regards to this RFP. I do have concerns, and John, you brought them up immediately in your first introduction regarding this issue. You said you don't believe, you're not sure if an addendum needs to be voted by the board. And my concern in this process that we see before us, as John has admitted to us, the addendum number 3 clearly reads at the beginning, "has requested by the Inspector General's office," which I completely thank the Inspector General's office for their assistance in helping to clarify some of the concerns that have been raised in the public. But it follows by saying the Board of Selectmen is providing the following clarification to the RFP. And this was sent out August 29th, and yet, as we've heard, the Board of Selectmen had no knowledge of it at that time, until yesterday. And I disagree with the wording clarification. I feel that these are amendments. It removes the point system. It's not clarifying something, it's an actual amendment. I also note when you're deleting section 2.4, it raises a major question in my mind. I mean, I'm happy to see it deleted, that 50 points in the ranking process would go with regards to the $7.2 million cost. But I have questions as to, it's not even a question, it's more or less we have not even discussed what your discussions might have been with regards to deleting the $7.2 million. And that was a question I asked Camp Dresser McGee just a week ago. In the past, you've received documents saying per acre would cost X dollars. And I have asked for those, and I once again asked for it last week of Camp Dresser McGee, and was told it would take a day or two. And that was 1 week ago. And yet during that time, we have 2 full pages before us, or 2 full pages before us of changes to the addendum. So my main concern is if someone in the bidding process, I mean, we do have a lot of people taking out this bid. If someone in the bidding process says, once we award this bid to someone that, this was inappropriate, that our board should have had approval of this addendum and we had not, because ratifying something after it's done is not discussing it and finding out the background workings of why we're doing all these things. And I don't want to see the town opening themselves into a case where if we were cautious today, we wouldn't have to worry that somebody may hold up the whole thing tomorrow. And I want someone here to explain to me, needless to say, I was outraged when I saw it. I accept your apology, and yet timing isn't everything. If we need an emergency meeting, we can call an emergency meeting. This is very important to the town. I don't think there's anyone here who in any way has tried to hold anything up for the sake of holding anything up, to nitpick, as some have said. That's never been the intent. But I need some clarification that, as John said at the beginning, it would not complicate things should some individual who puts in a proposal not win the proposal and say, wait a minute, I'm going after the town of Milton. I know in the past RFPs are reviewed by the Inspector General's office, and I don't know how much time, how many extra legal hours we're paying to get this update now, if only we maybe had accepted their help in the beginning when certainly the questions kept getting raised.
We asked for their help, and we did accept their help. That's why this was issued.
August 7th.
Yeah. And they answered me on August 28th.
Even before that,
We met with them.
we met with the Inspector General himself.
Who's we? What date? These are the things
We already
that...
reported them to you. The most recent meeting was Thursday. Get my calendar. There were 2 meetings that I attended, and they both were the subject of discussions here. The first one was, the most recent one was Thursday, August 21st.
John, you weren't at our meeting August 21st. I was told at this meeting, and I guess we can look at the minutes, the RFP was not mentioned.
No.
The discussion was on the lease.
It was, except to this extent. I was not at the meeting, but Mr. Neely was, and I watched part of it on TV. But what I can tell you, because I was there, is I asked about the RFP, which I had submitted on August 8th. The general counsel told me she had not finished reviewing it, was not prepared to discuss it, would give us an answer by the following Wednesday, which was the 27th. In fact, we got the answer on the 28th. What I meant by that was we sought the assistance of the Inspector General, but most of that meeting concerned the legislation, as I believe the board was told.
Yeah, and like just, there was
It's in the
2 quotes
RFP.
I said that night, and I stand by the quotes that I heard in that room. And this woman stated there was no fundamental disagreement with what we propose. Number two, she thinks it is a worthy project and working on a few details.
That's not the
She said that
concern.
was, like I said, where do we stand on this proposal and project? And that's the quotes I used that night, and that's what I understood where she was in this whole thing.
I'll review the tape, but the discussion, when we turned to the fact that you had attended another meeting, which also brings the point up, it wasn't that we had authorized any negotiations with regards to the RFP to be going on, nor with the lease, and yet you, John Flynn, and John Cronin have met with them. Has it only been 2 times? It was never stated on August 21st that there were possible changes coming for the RFP. If it had been,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know there were
She told
any
us she
coming.
wasn't ready to talk about it.
well, the
I asked the
discussions,
question, where do we stand with the RFP? She said, I don't know, I haven't finished reviewing it. I said, when can you give us an answer? She said, the following Wednesday.
But she gave you the general characterizations which Rick reported at the meeting. And want to repeat those, Rick?
well, he made the 2 statements, but that's not the gist of it. You said that there were some changes
Right, so the
to
first
be
thing is
made.
we were discussing technical amendments to clarify the passage of the legislation.
The lease, legislation for the lease.
Secondly, I said there was no fundamental disagreement with what we were proposing. She was thumbing through the actual proposal and said, I haven't finished this, but there's no fundamental disagreement. The third thing she said was, I think it's a worthy project and we're working on a few details. But she said, I haven't finished going through the document.
Nowhere in there do you mention that the RFP was being reviewed. Your discussion centered on the legislation, that there were a few minor changes, and now tonight we also have a document in front of us with changes to that. The fact of the matter is, the RFP as we put it out was not in compliance with Chapter 30. That's why we have 2 pages before us to put it in compliance with Chapter 30 by the Inspector General's office. And I'm concerned, my concern, what I'm proposing is that to cover ourselves, that some extension be put on the submission of the bids. I also had repeatedly asked for when this was ever submitted to the Dodge report. It finally made the Dodge report on August 26th, and in it, it still stated the bids due August 29th. So I'm just pointing out that should a bidder find fault, should someone who has a proposal find fault with the process, it'll put you back years, not days. I think as far as an answer to our need to be the ones approving, I don't know if you get that from the Attorney General's office or the District Attorney, but
Well, you get it from me. I'm the one that asked that you put it on the agenda. Because you're the awarding authority.
you're asking us to ratify something that's
Yes.
already been done.
Yes, absolutely. That's what ratification is.
Except, as you stated previously, we never authorized you to put this out.
That's why I'm asking you tonight to ratify it. That's what ratification is.
Well, I have serious problems with doing that after the fact, since I didn't have the time to discuss any of these changes, although, as I said, I appreciate the Inspector General's changes. And these are clearly amendments. They're amendments to bring us into compliance with Chapter 30, not clarification. So I have strong concerns about that word, and about the fact that if they are amendments to bring us in compliance, that there'd be the need to extend the bid process.
Which items are you stating bring us into compliance with Chapter 30B?
Removing any, what was the term? Ambiguity in the RFP.
That's not a violation.
Well, if it's not clearly, I had Chapter 30, I didn't bring it with me, but if there's any concern that someone putting in a bid might feel that by the point system stating the 7.2 million and the 50 points, that if their proposal was not going to include a post-closure use or just acceptance of that closing capping, I think you can mainly look at the amendment has the concern over the $7.2 million figure. Has only, one of the ones that I know of. But not having been involved in any of these discussions, you read 2 sentences there, but didn't give any background. That was why we've got 2 pages before us, is it not, John? Are you saying that it was in compliance with Chapter 30B and we have 2 changes of amendments for nothing?
No, I can tell you this, that You will find nowhere in 30B something that says these items are required. But when you have the Inspector General recommending that you make these changes, you have two choices. What do? Go to court and fight them? Do you negotiate for weeks, or do you do it? They are very simple changes to make. That's why it was done this way. And if you have the state's reviewing agency now comfortable with your RFP, you've eliminated a potential problem.
I'm not arguing with the changes, I agree with the changes, but they're not simple, you use the word changes, and in an addendum, these are amendments, not clarifications.
No, I disagree. I think they're fairly fundamental. The major change in this, in my opinion, is not for a potential bidder. It's for how you, the town, as a watering authority, react to it when you get it. If you take the time to study this, you will see that most of this work should already be done. The Inspector General asked us to eliminate the cost proposal review methodology, not because they had a question about any of the particular dollar items, because the Inspector General favors, and I stress favor, not because 30B requires it, favors rather than a cost review methodology based on a specific list of prices or something, that you let the market dictate it. If it's a cost item, what's the least costly to Milton? Or if it's a consideration you get back, what is the most beneficial? It makes sense to me, but to say that 30B requires, you know, but that is not something that is a substantial change for a prospective bidder. If you think it requires more time, then certainly as a watering authority you have the discretion to do that. But to answer your question why 2.4 came out, because the Inspector General suggested eliminate the cost review methodology. When I asked her about it, her answer was the Inspector General's office does not favor this type of approach. She did not express a particular concern about any of this particular item, such as the $7.2 million, the 4% interest rate, any of that. It wasn't a question as to the validity of the figures. It was a problem with the methodology.
Let the market,
Yes.
and that's something that I've argued repeatedly, that you do, when you put something out to bid, especially like this, I've heard from several developers that are in this business, and they said for $8 million, are you closing the cap in the town of Milton? I'm very concerned because my argument is not so much what you're trying to say, take them to court and fight the Inspector General's office. I'm appreciative of what has transpired here, and yet I don't want to see us in a position, because of the introduction and the term clarification, not amendment, in a position where opening the town up to tying us up in court.
Well, an addendum is, in fact, an amendment to the old RFP, so, I mean, it's not, we might be getting into semantics here. It is an amendment. Isn't that correct?
That's what an addendum is. When you say that, we could have said addendum. We could have said, I mean, we could have said Amendment 1, Amendment 2, Amendment 3. Camp Dress's terminology is addendum. It's clear to any bidder or proposer that there's a change. Believe me, the word clarification is not a problem here. I would stress, look more at the substance. You have achieved a change you wanted, but as I said earlier, there were many changes requested both by individual members of this board and by members of the public. And rather than address them piecemeal, I thought with the consent of the board, I was submitting the whole package to the Inspector General, asking for review of the entire thing. The result is that one of the changes you wanted has been recommended, and we've done it. So I think that's a good result. And I'm not sure what the problem is, frankly.
I mean, I guess I look at this thing and I look at 1.3 of the proposal. 1.3 reads, if the proposed, this is the original RFP, if the proposer in the town execute a lease, the length of the lease shall be limited to 50 years for the requirements of the Milton Town Meeting and the Home Rule Petition, which the town expects to be passed by the legislature. So now we've issued a clarification on number 2.
Yeah.
The legislation for the lease of the landfill property currently being considered by the legislature allows the town to enter into a lease agreement for 50 years. Why is that necessary? I mean, if someone read 1.3 of the proposal, it's pretty clear to me. Point 1 is also expressed in the document. She wrote in her letter a reference to 3 choices. I would say there are the 2 choices. The 2 choices, one was to cap the landfill, or the other was to cap the landfill and develop the landfill. I don't know where she got 3. There's only 2 if you read through the proposal. So I'm not sure, frankly, where some of these requirements were put in. Because it's clear by reading the proposal, it says 50 years on this document. It's clear that we asked for either capping or landfill.
So you're saying you don't want to ratify this?
I didn't say that at all. I said they were unnecessary. I think John is smart to take a practical viewpoint. John is advising us as legal counsel that it's not worth going into court and contesting this or opposing this thing. He's saying that these are changes that do not impact on the quality of the overall process, and that we'll be ready next week to open the proposals. And I think his key point is that the changes under items 4 and 5 affect our review and not the documents submitted by the developer.
You continue to stress the concern with fighting the Inspector General's office. You're saying, fine, we're all in agreement with the changes, and maybe they're just clarifying some wording, but there are actual amendments that do change the evaluation process. There's, especially under 2.9, now a composite rating for each proposal and the reason for that proposal.
That's
Is
the way,
added.
excuse me, go ahead, sorry.
Is added, which you say is required under Chapter 30B?
The statute,
Wasn't there?
the statute requires it anyway.
But we didn't have it in before.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in the statute we don't have in there.
You don't have to put a statute in the RFP.
Okay.
See, I disagreed with that, but it's in there because it doesn't hurt. I think I understand your point, and it's a valid question. Your concern is, will this affect the
Validity of our choice.
potential proposers' opportunity to participate? This process here? Or should you give more time?
I
That's a valid
think
question.
you have to
Yeah.
give more time. For us not to, in the end, suffer the consequences should we not have, should anyone contest the whole process. I thank you for your time and today's
This is
explanation.
a letter that came in this afternoon, after 4 o'clock, and it's from Barbara Ansbury, and it was a copy to me, and it says to Mr. Flynn that she has reviewed the RFP, that it incorporates the suggested changes, and she's pleased that it complies with legal requirements for fair and open compensation. So it's her blessing over the addendum number 3. The only other thing, the last sentence says that she suggests that the town might want to consider extending the date, which is a point that you made, Ms. Agostino. So that's the...
When I was asking the question, you'd already seen this?
I thought you were questioning the substance. When I
No.
finally figured out you were asking about this, that was next item. Yes, I've seen it. She sent it to me. I thought you were questioning the
No,
merits of the
I
changes.
began by, with my concern that we not get tied up with anyone once a bid is accepted.
That's why I asked the question again.
Yeah.
Once I figured out what, I thought you were talking about the validity of the, once I figured out you were talking about the timing, and that's, who's next to talk about this.
Substantive, she says right here, exactly what my argument to you were, that these are substantive and procedural potential proposals should be permitted additional time. And that was, I think, my first statement of concern.
So what I said to her was, I called her up and I said, argued with her, she wouldn't change her mind. I said, well, look, she said to me, it is my recommendation, if the board chooses not to follow it, there is no legal recourse. So I said to her, can I at least quote you to tell the board that it is your recommendation, and if in their good judgment they decide not to follow it, then there is no legal action to be taken by the Inspector General? She said yes. That is her opinion. It is also her opinion to make the changes, which we did. So the choice you have to make as a awarding authority is, number one, you've been told by the Inspector General that the amendments, changes, whatever you choose to call them, Addenda 3, comply with 30B in the sense that they provide for open and fair competition. So that's why I asked you what your concern is, Diane. Yes, you have the Inspector General suggesting that you allow more time, and that's where you are tonight.
And could you...
I'm only here for you to ratify the
Could you clarify,
addendum.
did she clarify what she means by sufficiently extended? Did
30
she,
days, probably.
did she set a
Um,
time?
Excuse me. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Did you talk to her?
No,
Did she say
No,
30
I-
days?
I'm just assuming
Speculating.
sufficiently extended must be 30, you know, we always keep doing 30 days.
I called her up and asked her that question, and she said 10 days.
She said 10 days was sufficient time.
Yeah.
My concern is what I pointed out about the Dodge report. Can you imagine a developer for the first time seeing this August 26th and still hasn't been notified that the August 29th submittal date?
That's
It's
an
not accurate.
interesting question. I mean, we did not, the town did not, did advertise in other newspapers as required
The
by
Central Register?
by the law, and in the Central Register. And I showed you a very early confirmation document from the Dodge reports. Just,
I have a
it was
copy of that.
it was a dot matrix thing. It was a confirmation to Campus and McKee. And you say it never appeared
Never appeared.
until the 26th. I've never seen a copy, but I'm not sure that that's necessary.
Do you think
No,
that
it's
would be
not.
sufficient grounds for a bid protest? That it wasn't the Dodge
That's-
reports?
That's the...
That's your question,
No.
isn't it?
No, that's, the main question would be the voting of the addendum, which I don't know, because John's opening words were, I'm not sure if the addendum needed to be voted by the board, and I want whatever office.
Actually, I've said addendum 1 was not voted by the board.
That's right.
Addendum 2 was not voted by the board, and addendum 3 was not voted by the board. But anyway, with John's suggestion that I bring it to the board, because you were away, I was away, so there was not a dialogue or discussion as there had been on some of the other things.
Has the awarding authority, I can't understand how we would not vote addendums. I mean, we did, you know, vote the entire RFP, so I don't, when we
Well,
hire...
actually, you voted to authorize me to review it and then to approve it. And you did not
We
ask
did
it to
not.
come back to be
We did not
revoted.
authorize addendums.
There's lots of
We were
contracts.
aware that there would be addendums
We do
issued.
contracts all the time, and the board never reviews the specs. I mean, you seek the appropriation, you authorize the project when you vote to award the contract. Now, in this case, you were all intimately involved in the formulation of the original RFP, and it was very helpful to all the staff and the department heads and everything to have the input from the selectmen. But that's not a common thing that the Board of Selectmen gets involved in specifications. Your power is when the bids come in, you can reject all the bids, or you can award to the one that you feel is the best interest of the town.
That your question was on the time.
I have two questions.
I think you
I
just
want to
gotta
be sure
say-
that you have the answers to both questions. One was the time, which,
I thought you just said to John that your main question was on the extension.
but my first question followed up on my concern. I 100% feel the Board of Selectmen put this RFP together, although authorization was given for the preliminary review when we were on vacation. Any addendums should have been reviewed by us. Actually, we discussed that, Kathy, with regards to a minor addendum of the extension of time, I think it was, because we got a copy and I asked if we needed to review it. And that question hasn't been answered on if we have to vote on addendums. I feel we should be voting on addendums. We're the awarding authority. This isn't a signed seal contract.
One of the reasons that Kevin was invited was because of experience with Chapter 30B, you know. So I think you've raised a couple of very good questions, and maybe he would have some comments to make on those.
Just a couple of very general ones. This is not an uncommon problem, because in a number of towns, obviously the boards of selectmen meet once a week or once every other week during the summer. And it is certainly not a violation of Chapter 30B for someone else to issue an addendum to an RFP. It's a routine municipal business practice. By the same token, if tonight, if the board said, we disagree with the addenda, you would certainly have the authority to vote tonight to retract it. That's where, as John said, the power still lies with this board, and you have the authority. Again, there's nothing in 30B that says, the awarding authority has to approve or vote on every addenda or amendment that is issued. but you certainly have the authority now, as the awarding authority, if you so choose, to modify the addenda that went out in any way you see fit, or to vote as the agenda item says tonight, to ratify the addenda.
I don't think I'm necessarily looking at Chapter 30B with regards to this question. It's more a matter of the open meeting law, the deliberation of these 2 pages of changes, because this has received widespread public review. And so if tomorrow, in fact, I did find out, I don't know how you two found out about it, but a resident who I guess originally received the RFP in their mail on Tuesday got this, and so called to ask, when did your board meet to do this? I don't know, how did you find it?
The key point is the board is not required to vote addendums or amendments or any of this. I mean, again, what John has stated is that what's unusual about this process is the board has participated in the RFP. If you look at the sewage projects or the water projects, we haven't reviewed the water project that was awarded to Brockton Contracting. We reviewed the contract proposal, we reviewed the budget. So that we reviewed the streets that are going to have water work done on. We reviewed the contract for Brockton Excavating after looking at the bids. So we're approving the actual contracts and the awards based upon the dollars and based on the streets that were approved at town meeting. We haven't gone ahead and looked at the RFP that DPW did for that water work. We haven't looked at the RFP on the sewage. What we do is we make sure that on the sewer work, an RFP is going out that takes care of what town meeting voted, and then on the back end of it, we're reviewing to make sure that it's a low bidder and all the other precautions.
This is totally different, though. It's completely different, the way this whole process for the landfill has been working, and I feel we have to be very cautious. And
those statements aren't exclusive.
well, yes, they are, because you've already said that you feel there's no need for us to vote on the addendum, and I feel that I want
It's not legally required.
under 30B.
Correct. It's not
What
legally
about
required.
under the open meeting law?
Because we've
Well, that's a
delegated.
good question, right? You could hit Kevin fairly with that.
You know, obviously, the open meeting law certainly is another area that any municipal board would be very concerned with. And what does, you know, the open meeting law only applies to meetings of public boards. In this case, you know, there was no public meeting. You know, maybe that gets to the root of your issue, but there was no public meeting, and because there was no public meeting of a governmental board, there could not, de facto, be any violation of the open meeting law.
The governmental body can also be a subcommittee. So my next question to you would be then, you know, Mr. Neely, Mr. Cronin, Mr. Flynn, were there anyone else at those meetings at the Inspector General's office?
Bruce Haskell.
Bruce Haskell was at one,
I was at one.
Kevin Field was at one.
Me.
That's
okay.
Brian Joyce.
Now, any governmental body,
Yeah.
I mean, making,
Yeah,
this is a
Representative Joyce was-
Representative Joyce, this is a governmental body, this is a, by some, it will be viewed as a subcommittee that was, in fact, discussing changes.
And that's another issue, again, which would be defined by the statute, by the open meeting law, and that defines, you know, public board, governmental board, and it would be my opinion that certainly that group of people meeting would not be covered by the open meeting law. Typically, it's for a subcommittee to be covered. You're right, subcommittees can be covered. It has to be a subcommittee that's appointed by a board which is covered by the open meeting law.
My next question then is, this group that met, how were they authorized?
Well, again, you know, it would be typical in the operation of any situation involving a request for proposal that certain, whether it be department heads or other town officials, would typically try to work out issues, whether it be the Attorney General, the Inspector General, whoever it might be that have concerns. It would be typical that those issues would try to be resolved not by the Board of Selectmen traipsing in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to the Inspector General's office, but by those officials that you entrust with carrying out those types of things.
Well, you can see my concern that since there were so many questions on the RFP, not being aware that those questions had continued to such a state that we would end up with 2 pages of changes, that I would have been one who would have preferred to have been known or even officially established a subcommittee for the review process. And I trust you can see my concern in that when I get phone calls from residents saying, how do these changes come about? You know, when did you meet? Who did it? It doesn't seem as upfront as I prefer to do business.
I can, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
There were two, I can partially answer that. There were two meetings that I'm aware of. One of them was called by Representative Joyce because of his concern with the reaction of the Inspector General. I went there because I was asked to by him.
The July meeting.
Yes.
So that was
not
just
a-
you and?
No, I was there, Representative Joyce,
No,
Rick Neely, John Cronin, Chris Haskell, Calvin Gordon.
it wasn't.
But we were asked to be there by Representative Joyce. There was no issue of any subcommittee at that meeting. When a state representative who was filed legislation on behalf of the town of Milton asks me to go to a meeting, I go. This had to do with the legislation, not with the RFP. The legislation concerned the lease. I assume that's why Mr. Neely was there, because he's your negotiator for the lease. I honestly don't know who asked the other people to be there. The second meeting I called for, and I called the people who attended. I called Kevin Feely because he works for me.
August 7th.
That was the August
21st.
21st. It was a
Thought
Thursday,
you
I
said
believe.
August 7th.
No,
That's when we handed
It was
it.
the day of the meeting, the last
Oh,
selectmen's meeting.
after,
those are the two meetings I'm aware of. Neither one of them was a subcommittee appointed by anyone. I asked
I
for the
wanted to
second.
follow it through systematically though. Can
Sure.
you know, you're going to the 28th. I still don't understand the 7th.
The 7th,
At
it's
what
actually
point-
the 8th. The 8th is the day that
The 8th. I have
we
7, 8.
hand-delivered the
Oh, August 7th.
RFP.
8, 7, okay.
August 8th is the day we hand-delivered the RFP to Barbara Hansberry, General Counsel for the Inspector General. I was on vacation. Kevin, on my behalf, sent her with a cover letter saying, please review this and provide us with your comments. August 28th is the date I received those comments in a letter from them. That has nothing to do with the legislation. That has to do with the RFP. Neither of the meetings concern the RFP except to this extent. In the second meeting, or the August 21st meeting, I asked Barbara Hansberry, where do we stand with the RFP?
The letter that you-
we had submitted it to her on the 8th. She said, I haven't finished reviewing it yet. And I asked her, when will we have your comments? And she said, the following Wednesday, meaning the 27th. It turned out we got them on the 28th. So the meetings did not concern the RFP, nor were they called for the RFP. They were called because of the legislative process and their comments, if you will, to the legislation. They were kind enough to meet with us to tell us, and I think it was reported to the board, that they had some concerns with it and they were looking to find a remedy, which they hopefully have done.
And it was simply your concern about the questions about the RFP that led to this August 7th submission of the RFP.
I thought I told the Board of Selectmen in a meeting that I would send it to the Inspector General. I don't remember whether I was asked to. I think I was asked by the Board of Selectmen, but whether I originated or you did, I walked out of here with the understanding that I should submit it to the Inspector General, and I thought it was, I don't recall whether you asked or I asked, but I thought the Board of Selectmen told me to, or at least approved it.
It was
So-
that same night that you all took it for your own review and were to give Kathy any reactions on it before it was released.
How-
No, I think that was
no,
earlier
no, no,
because
no.
it was released the 20th.
It was released in July.
Released in July.
Okay.
It was released in
It
July.
still could have been.
Well,
Right.
I got the, I can tell you this, my office got the bound
Right.
Copy?
copy. By that I mean this, on August 8th, and that's, I was away on vacation, that's the day it was delivered. So you can call it what you want, but I submitted it to them because each of you had asked questions about it, and I thought you authorized me to send it.
It was.
No, it makes
was-
sense. It was,
But neither one of those, just so I don't confuse it,
Yeah.
neither one of those meetings with the Inspector General concerned the RFP. They both concerned the legislation. So if your concern is what meetings have been held on this, none. I've had a lot of phone conversations with them since the letter came in, but
with the IG.
yes,
Okay.
but no meetings. I did bring up the question at one of them, but I was told we're not ready to talk
And
about
you
it.
can see my concern that if this, these changes hadn't been made and if a bidder was concerned about the process, I mean, they might have had the IG's office right behind them saying it's not in compliance with 30B and
But what can I tell you? When I submitted on the 8th, to be perfectly honest, I hoped I would have an answer from the Board of Selectmen well before the 28th.
The request
Particularly where
was,
the original document said right in it, the bids are going to be open on the 29th. Well, what am I going to do? Call them up and ring them out? Because, I mean, you can't bite the hand that feeds you, you know, you have to use a little bit of discretion, and they don't have to do anything. They're not required by statute to do that at all. They did us a favor, if you will, by reviewing it. Yes, they had some concerns, but that was the whole point of sending it to them. Let's see what, I mean, when I have comments coming from several different people, as I said earlier, rather than address them piecemeal, it doesn't seem to be a good idea to come to the Board of Selectmen every week and ask for changes because A, B, and C, maybe they're all valid. This is the agency that reviews that stuff. Let's have them put it all together. Let's see what they synthesize out of it. That's the result, and I think the result is good. If you object to the process, I'm part of the process, so I guess I'm here to listen to that. To answer your question about whether the Board of Selectmen should, I don't think we'd ever get a clear answer on that, but you are the awarding authority. I felt it made sense, given the unusual circumstances here, to ask the Board of Selectmen to approve the action today that's already been taken. I think under the circumstances, if we're ever challenged, any judge would understand, fully what happened and why it happened.
I just don't want to see us challenged.
But what would the challenge be? You have a change, whatever you choose to call it,
Well, do you
that
feel-
complies with 30B.
Also, do you feel that if we extend the time, then there'd be less likelihood of a challenge?
That could very well be.
Because of the, okay?
That could very well be.
All right.
I'd like to
the
make
issue,
two,
right?
you want to go? I'd like to make 2 points. First of all, I'm looking at Kevin Feely's cover letter for that RFP of August 8th, and it says to Barbara Hansberry, the General Counsel for the Inspector General, as I believe you know, for a number of reasons, time is of the essence in this matter. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. So the issue of the timing, the fact that you were requesting at least questions coming back to you as soon as possible so that the dialogue would continue, and that if there were any substantive concerns, that they be identified immediately.
I guess they
was a
have a different
delay.
definition of immediate than
Right.
the Board of Selectmen.
Our time is of the essence. I think that's one very important issue that we need to bring up. It's unfortunate that I'm sure the Inspector General's office is busy, but that they were not able to get to this earlier, because I do think that time is of the essence. On the other hand, we welcome their comments.
I don't know how to answer that question, Diane. If a bidder contacted you with a problem, I would say definitely. But you three have to make the judgment. Do these changes, addenda, whatever impede the ability of a bidder, a proposer, to submit a bid to you by September 8th? I'm not sure that they do, but I'm not the awarding authority. To me, my reaction to all of it is it's more an issue of how you evaluate it. But if you disagree with me, then by all means give them more time.
I think we have to be aware that in any circumstances, a bid may be challenged. We can't control what a contractor who doesn't receive the award may do. Certainly know that bid protests are fairly common. I read the reports of the MWI Board of Directors, and I've talked to some people in there. I know bid protests from some of the large Boston contractors are fairly common, especially when a low bidder is a relatively new entity. I'm aware of that. If you look at item 5A, they're talking about awarding some contracts, and I know that those contracts, there were bid protests from Boston contractors who do it as a matter of routine. So if any of these contractors are considering bidding on the Milton project, I think we would expect that they might, if they don't get the award, or if any one of them doesn't get the award for Quarry Hills and thinks that our project is tied in with Quarry Hills, there may well be a bid protest. And I think we should be prepared for that, not alarmed by it.
I don't think we have to hand them an opportunity, though.
I don't think we are handing them an opportunity.
So how many days do you feel comfortable with extending?
I think the Quincy City Council has some reason to believe that the Quarry Hills may get their award within the next 2 weeks, if I read the ledger correctly. I don't know if we have any better information than that, but I am concerned that if this process is delayed, Quarry Hills is not the only contender, but it's the bird in the hand at the moment, we hope, and I wouldn't want to see them lose an opportunity to get the big dig material for the benefit of the city of Quincy, the MDC, and the town of Milton, if that's an option. So I'm concerned about a delay.
Could you answer the question of how many days delay are you stating then?
I don't know what the central artery schedule is, but the City Quincy Council seemed to think it was within 2 weeks. That's the best guess I have at the moment.
I'm talking about our bid opening of what, Monday? Monday, today's almost Friday.
I asked
Good
Mr.
question.
Cronin to get in touch with Bruce Haskell. Has he had any requests from any potential bidders for a further extension?
No, he has heard from none of the bidders on time request, potential bidders.
Well, I think, I mean, the issue is, she told you in the phone 10 days?
Yes.
That was her estimate?
Well, I called her up because I expected that you would ask me what's the sufficient time.
Good idea.
And, or actually, it was suggested to me that it might be good to find that out by someone a little more alert than I am. That was her answer, 10 days. I mean, there's no cut in stone, but she said 10 days. So I said, well, it's good enough for her. It's good enough for me to tell my client, the Board of Selectmen.
Well, I'd be willing to consider 10 days, frankly, because if that's, we've been playing by their game, frankly, which isn't necessarily the rules that are necessarily outlined in the law, but we'll play by their game since, with all due respect to the legal profession, there seems to be many interpretations of it.
But this does protect us somewhat,
Well,
playing by her game.
Right.
Right?
That's right.
Yes.
That's
So
right.
does
So I would
advertise.
be willing to consider 10 business days, which would put it, or 10 calendar days, which would put it to that Thursday, the 18th, I believe.
All right,
Mhm.
That normal calendar days versus business
Yes.
days?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'd be willing to say that if that's what this attorney would like, that's something I don't think is unreasonable at this point to do. Obviously, we're having just seen this as you handed in the middle of the meeting here.
By the way, I should say in answer to your question that they did give us a quick turnaround on this because I asked today for a letter and, you know, a lot of agencies would tell you where to go and these people. So they were, you might disagree on their results, but they were attempting to be responsive and cooperative. And they do perceive it that they're working toward a solution that will, so they were good in that sense. I mean, there were a lot of people who were just been busy or in conference, so.
so there was a motion, I think, but never a second. So
Well, yeah,
now
I'll make-
you amend the motion
Well,
to say, and to issue addendum number 4.
Yeah, I'll do that. I guess I would first comment that I wasn't aware of these amendments 2 and 3, and I can't remember amendment 1 at this point, frankly. I will tell you that we do delegate to the town managers the authority to do these amendments and extensions. So the fact that, you know, the extension was first granted by whatever number of days it was, from the 29th to the 8th, was something that, you know, we delegate to the people who have the most direct contact with the people requesting the information, such as Bruce and John talking.
There we had requests.
Right, so I mean, I wasn't aware of that, and we delegate, again, on a regular basis in all the RFPs, the authority to do that. So I don't think there was any, the board doesn't usually get into approving the RFPs or the amendments to the RFPs. It's delegation of authority.
In this circumstance, though, concerns and questions came to us as a board. Maybe the residents don't normally come to Citizen Speak for some of these other RFPs, and that's why I feel we have an obligation to this RFP process here. And I thank you for adding the 10 days, and I would second that motion. But could you clarify the wording? Are we skipping over this request for a ratification? Are we jumping right to a, are you
That's the first
combining
part of
I
it?
was going to combine the two.
What are you gonna,
Let me get the agenda on here. It's buried under those
Number 9.
3 inches of paper. Okay. I would move to ratify the town council's action on August 29th in the issuing of addendum number 3 and add 10 days to the date presently contained in addendum number 2,
So that would be by addition,
by addition of 10 days.
days,
Just
addendum number
Make it-
4.
I was going to, all right, so I would make the date.
Hold on a
make the
second.
date-
How about issue addendum number 4, which extends the time for proposals to September? Could I suggest an alternative wording, please?
So,
Okay.
No criticism intended. That the latter part of that motion be and to authorize Camp Terrestrial McKee to issue addenda number 4, which would extend the time for opening the requests for proposals to Thursday, September 18th, 1997.
Would we make that early in the day so that by the end of the
Yeah.
day, by our
11
meeting,
o'clock.
we would have some knowledge of how many proposals had come in?
11 o'clock, probably be good.
Should that addendum number 4, John, since we're voting to ratify addendum number 3, make note of it, that the board officially ratified addendum number 3? Or do you want to get back to us with an answer as to concern about us ratifying addendum?
Would be, I don't think it would be without precedent. I don't think you need to do that. And I think
But we're
you
being
might-
asked
What
to.
was
You
it?
might get confused.
It's enough if it's in the minutes, in my opinion, but
All right.
All right, so the motion is to ratify the town council's action on August 29th in issuing addendum number 3 and to issue addendum number 4 to extend the deadline
no, excuse me, and to authorize
Authorize
Camp
CDM
Trustees
to
Key
issue
to issue addendum number 4.
to extend the opening of the bids from September 8th to September 18th at 11 a.m.
September 18th?
Yes.
Which is our next meeting.
Unless was enough
No,
business, I don't know.
we're back on every
Well,
week.
The calendar we received.
I-
it says-
Calendar only had 2.
I'm all with not, but I kind of assume we would go back now
the
2
cal-
every week.
Yeah, the calendar actually did have the 11th off, but it seems to me there's enough business.
I
to
think
do it.
there's enough business.
I thought you were extending the summer.
I would like to.
We would all.
Mr. Nail, can you read that once more, please?
The amendment?
Yeah, the motion.
Okay. I move to ratify the town council's action of August 29th in issuing addendum number 3 and to authorize Camp Trustees McKee to issue addendum number 4 to extend the opening of the RFP from the 8th of
The
September.
opening of proposals.
Opening proposals from September 8th to September 18th at 11 a.m.
Thank you.
I will second that and vote for it, but I'd just like to give my reason that it's because the Inspector General's office has
Help us.
certainly provided us service that I think we'll come to appreciate.
That's true.
Are we ready for vote?
Yep.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
And the other item that was distributed was that legislation, which file requirement. Anything else here for John?
Yes. The liquor license?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, we flip to the liquor license. It's actually not a license, it's just a change of the manager. John?
Yes.
14.
14?
James, Kevin?
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
It's nice to meet you.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
Kevin, can I ask one other question? Are we going to discuss this, the change to the House amendment? I don't know if Kevin was involved in that.
I'm
Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, I can cover that.
Because it was numbered next.
That's right.
Nice meeting you. Thank
Good to
you.
meet you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Kevin.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So your name moves over on the stationery, the last one.
More responsibility.
More money.
The, did you want me to address the liquor license?
Yes,
Or are we
please.
still on,
Well, I thought we'd gone
Okay, well, why don't
by.
we go back to
I
9?
thought we'd gone by now. I was just,
Dealing with the minutes, I'll get it.
Yeah.
Do you have questions about the legislation, Mrs. Agostino?
We just got this one tonight, right? Faxed to us today, so I just want to be sure. Can you explain to us what's happening in the process?
yes, let me,
This goes back to the meeting of the 21st.
yes.
Right.
The Inspector General raised some additional questions about the legislation and expressed some concerns with public bidding statutes other than 30B, which frankly I did not understand to be an issue when we left the July meeting. Since they shared them with us,
They suggested remedies.
Yes, they suggested remedies and sent some draft language to Brian Joyce that we've worked on over a couple of weeks now. Essentially, their questions were, to the extent you're talking about closing and capping the landfill, it isn't clear from the language of the governor filed that you're complying with the applicable statutes. And that was a surprise to me, frankly, because the whole tenor of that first meeting in July was all about 30B, but notwithstanding, that's why they're there. And they said there are ways to address that, and the ways to address that are to put amendment language to the House bill filed by the governor that would authorize a couple of things. Number one, would authorize the Milton Board of Selectmen to act on behalf of the town, rather than, for example, a chief procurement officer. That seemed eminently reasonable in this case because, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm more comfortable with the Board of Selectmen doing it because you're the elected authorities. That was number one, their point. Number two, they said, it should be clear that you can utilize the provisions of Chapter 30B rather than other public other construction statutes, including particularly Chapter 30, Section 39M. If you were building a road, for example, or building a bridge, 3039M, the Inspector General raised the specter that there's at least a possibility, if not a probability, if you're closing and capping a landfill, normally that's under Chapter 30, Section 39M. The third issue that they said should be raised, since we feel you need this authority, you need to somehow address the fact that it would be effective retroactively. The language that they have agreed to after several discussions back and forth between me and their office, a woman named Fran Brown, is the language that you see in front of you here. And I'll try to summarize it. What that would add to the governor's bill is, number one, it would say that the town of Milton is authorized to do this project acting through its Board of Selectmen. Number two, it would say, to be precise, you can issue the RFP for closure and post-closure use of the landfill. You, the Board of Selectmen. That you can do that utilizing competitive sealed proposals. That you can make the decision which proposals provide the best offer. That the action you've taken to date is okay, that it's validated, ratified, and confirmed. That language is accomplished in two methods. Number one, the sentence you see, the action of said board in issuing a request for proposals therefore and giving public notice is hereby ratified, validated, and confirmed. That language is requested by the Office of House Counsel. The second way it's accomplished is the language, this act shall take effect on July 1st, 1997, which is the language requested by the Inspector General's office. If the legislation passes with that amendment, then the town of Milton is authorized to go through this 30B procedure with this RFP to seek proposals for closing and capping the landfill and post-closure use of the landfill, and is authorized to issue a contract for that through the Board of Selectmen.
The Governor's Council also agrees.
Yes. Senate Council.
Senate Council agrees,
Yes.
and this is not a substantive change beyond his ability to accept it.
I'm sorry?
This is not a substantive change beyond his ability to accept it.
Correct. It turns out that this type of bill filed by the governor is subject to different rules than a bill that we filed, so we don't have the same restrictions on substantive amendments. So I am told that it's acceptable to the Inspector General as to be more precise, they don't object to it. As of this afternoon, they hadn't put that in writing, but they promised the Committee on Local Affairs that they would. And it's acceptable to the other council lawyers in the various offices there. And the next step is to have the Committee on Local Affairs consider it. And if they vote it out, then at some point it would get to the Committee on Third Reading where it got lodged in before. As I understand it, although I haven't seen it in writing, there is a hearing next week before the Committee on Local Affairs, I believe on September 9th at 11 a.m. I was told that
To
by...
review this?
Yes, to review this legislation.
Can you explain the job of the Committee on Local Affairs? How did they come in here?
All I can tell you is that when a bill is filed that concerns a town or a city that applies to a municipality, the Committee on Local Affairs has jurisdiction to review it. It's within their area, and they're apparently the first stop for
It's
it.
assigned to them.
Yes, it's referred to them,
It's
they
assigned
review
to
it. They're like the first review, first substantive review.
Okay, so they more or less would, on the behalf of the townspeople, review what, if they feel that it was legally written correctly, or that some control or power was being changed from one hand to the other? I don't particularly understand.
Well, I'm not sure either because I've never been before them, but they have all of that authority. They can decide whether it's legal, whether it's in proper form from a form point of view, whether it violates any statute, whether it violates any constitutional provision, and whether it's a
And
good
our
idea.
bylaws?
With good public purpose.
Well, it makes sense considering that this new wording appears to give the board more power than we had before.
Yes,
Unquestionably more power.
yeah,
Well, the change that you talked about was the chief procurement officer.
Right.
yes.
Right. And since we're not going before any,
We don't have a chief procurement officer.
but normally we go before town meeting when we have,
Well, we did before the time.
Yes,
This bill is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
this is a very public, open way of doing it.
Mhm.
So,
But all I can tell you is they have jurisdiction to look at any aspect of the bill. Form, substance, whether it's a good idea, whether it serves a public purpose. By the way, they reviewed the first bill too. The bill that was originally filed after the town meeting, and it passed through there, and it was at the Committee on Third Reading where the Inspector General raised the issues there.
so the concept has received their approval for Milton as well as, of course, for Quincy,
Yes.
through this committee as well.
Does any member of the board wish to testify at the hearing on Tuesday?
I'd be interested in attending a suspect.
well, I don't know if I'll testify, but I'll certainly plan on attending it. Are you speaking at it? You just said you've never appeared before.
Well, I don't know if I'm authorized to speak, but I certainly plan to be there.
Okay.
You're a legislative
Yes.
counsel for
Okay,
the-
all right.
I didn't mean to be facetious.
Right.
Part of my job is legislative counsel. I will be there, and if necessary, I will speak.
What was the time?
11 a.m., September 9th. It's hearing room A2.
So we'll
I
post the
believe
meeting,
it's in
State
the-
House?
we'll post
Yes.
the meeting for the board.
I believe it's in the annex in the back, if you will, the back building, the one behind the archway there. If I learn anything differently, I'll let you know through John Cronin. That's what I've been told by telephone. I don't have anything in writing on
And I think Bruce Haskell should be
that.
there.
Yes,
So this is run similar to a public hearing, is it?
yes. Well, it is a public hearing. It's a
Oh, that's
hearing-
what it's called?
It's a hearing of the Committee on Local Affairs, yes, run by the chairman.
Whose name is?
The House chairman is Representative Marie Parenti. The Senate chairman is Susan Fargo, Senator Susan Fargo.
How many members are on the board, do you know?
I don't know.
Brian, Joyce, staff review that. Is that? Answer that?
Any further questions?
I don't know. Item 14,
I think,
Liquor license for the American Legion Post.
this is not for a license or a new license, it's for a change in the manager who is named in the license. Sean, you want to?
Yes. There are two issues here. Number one is the request to change manager. I was asked to look into it. It appears to be properly filed. The entity that holds the license is asking you to change the manager. There are some procedural forms to file, which I believe they have filed. You and the state ABCC get the opportunity to rule on this. Your local regulations provide that a manager shall be of good moral character. You are permitted, although you don't have to, look into the background of a proposed manager. And, for example, you would have the right to approve a request subject to a background check. If you chose not to do that, the ABCC would do so in any event. The request is properly before you. I guess the issue is whether there's any reason not to approve it. And the reason from your regs would be, well, two reasons. One, if there's any misstatement in the application, I can't tell you that there is any misstatement. Or the second reason would be if the proposed manager is not a person of good moral character, and the normal way to determine that is through a background check, a criminal record. Not all communities do that. You're not required to by statute, by your own regs, but you do have that standard.
did we do that?
Oh, no, we were told that the ABC
That's-
will do it.
Oh,
The ABCC tells me that most communities don't do it, but you're certainly free to.
If there's any interest at all, you could approve this subject to a clean bill health through our record check process.
That would be good.
There'd be no harm to having a local check.
No, there's no harm to that, I don't think.
so why would be any harm to any check? You know,
None at all.
this is nowadays with the drunk driving concern, I would think we'd want to get whatever information we can obtain legally.
Do you want to have a motion to approve, subject to a background check?
Passage of the background check.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
The second issue is, apparently a question was raised as to who is or should be the license holder. As I understand the history of this, way back at some point in time, there was legislative authority by a special act to issue a liquor license to the Legion Post. It's provided by statute and you follow the proper procedure. There was also an act of the legislature that allowed the NBC, I believe, to convey the land on which the Legion Post is located to the Legion Building Corporation that was and is the owner of the land. I understand that historically that was the original license holder, the local Milton Post 114 Building Corporation, but somehow for reasons no one is sure of, it evolved to a situation where today the license holder is the Post, the membership, the Milton Post 114 American Legion. You were asked, or the question was raised by someone as to how, if at all, you change, if you so desired, the liquor license holder from the Legion Post Building Corporation to Post 114.
The reverse.
Yes, I'm sorry, the reverse. To change it from the Post to the Building Corporation. I discussed that with the General Counsel to the ABCC because I can't find it addressed in the statute. The only way the statute provides for a transfer of a liquor license is if the holder requests, assents to it. There's a statutory procedure for a transfer, and often if you sell the business or something like that. So unless
Once they
there's...
have it, it appears to be theirs.
Yes, and if they don't agree to it, there's no way to involuntarily transfer it from one to another. The only exception to that is if you have a seizure for non-payment of taxes, but that's not what you're talking about here. The only other possibility which you mentioned to me is if you have a situation where it's clear that you have a clerical error, where your records are incorrect, and you have the wrong entity on your records, that can be addressed administratively. But if that is not the situation, and if you have a case where two entities disagree, and the one that doesn't have the license now wants it, but the one that has the license doesn't want to transfer it, there's no statutory vehicle to accomplish that.
just as clerical error, if it was a
Yes.
clerical error,
Yeah.
then we're just going to have to go back to the ancient records to
Check the vault.
see what it said at first, and it's in the archives, I think, in some reason. And research it from there back, see if there ever was ink, owned by ink. We'll report to you on that.
Okay.
Any other town council members here? Forbes Road, I don't know how deeply was involved in that, but why don't we tackle that one?
Okay, number,
16, really.
This is an agreement for change orders with the government that have been negotiated to resolve a number of items. And,
I called Paul Cantor and asked him to run this by me. He said there have been a number of changes, and basically the way they occurred is that for the Forbes Road project, we originally planned to tie in 29 homes, and then 3 additional homeowners wished to join in. So in the end, 32 were tied in, and that resulted in an increase in costs. Additionally, in doing the work, the contractor found 2 MWRA water lines that were unknown, or water lines that go up along Adams Street, and that also cost additional work both for the contractor and for the engineer. And in the case of the, okay, let's just talk about the contractor. For the contractor, there was the increase in cost due from the number of houses being increased from 29 to 32. There was an increase in cost related to the 2 MWRA water lines that they had to work around. And there was a decrease in cost because the town is going to do the asphalt work. We can do it at a lower price because we can get a lower contractor price than Perdoni Brothers can get. And then there's an additional cost for the engineer because there again the discovery of the MWRA water mains required additional engineering time to redesign and additional time for a resident engineer.
whose error was it?
I don't know.
I ask it at that
Yeah.
particular point because I have a suspicion.
Do you know the answer?
No, the plans they had didn't show the
Right.
water main.
Who did the plan?
The engineer was asking for the extra money.
Well, what Paul Cantor told me was that the price reflected here, because I asked that question. I asked that question, which is item 4 on the second page. We did right here. The piece of paper, item 16 tonight. Amendment number 4, item 4 refers to the Tech contract amount. And I asked him how that was provided for in terms of the design error. And he reported that the price was finally cut in half what the engineers wanted.
Right, so,
So that's what his report was as to how the engineer absorbed.
right, that's appropriate. There's no question they will put to additional design expenses. They wound up running that sort of line down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Oh.
The cost of the project still comes in at an estimated $30,000 less than the total appropriation. These were unfortunate discoveries that, among other things, delayed the project and put the neighborhood through a lot of extra time living with the construction.
Well, I think the other point is we're going to be asked to make a payment tonight, but more importantly, we're going to withhold $17,500 because the contractor still has repairs and work to do in the neighborhood, some of the neighbors where there's been damage.
Have you had calls from Dr. Oken?
Yes.
Yes.
Landscaping problems or more serious?
Irrigation problems or landscaping problems. Or
Damage to an
trees.
irrigation system, and Fredoni is going to have to do more work to repair them, and so we will withhold a payment to be sure that that work is done.
That's the 17.5, and also at the top of this, item 6 on page 2 of the original document, has to do with the septic systems.
Public.
No, replacement of them. They're supposed to properly abandon the septic systems, and if there's at least 3 that he hasn't satisfied the town's engineers that he has properly abandoned and filled them with sand and whatever else you do for septic systems.
And pump them out at once.
So that's another reason to withhold payment, because there's 3 of those homes that haven't been taken care of. So the 17.5 is really, I guess, the final contingency payment.
You know, the company that sold the contract, the grinder pumps, the key components, and who we will be relying on to provide service into the future, hasn't get paid, and so, you know, this is good if we can get the payment process tonight, because he finished his work 120 days ago. And that's a big bill. It's partial payment, but it doesn't, you know.
John, I presume you reviewed this amendment, and from the language, it appears that we may, in a sense, be avoiding going to court over claims and incurring a lot of expenses.
Kevin actually
Yeah.
did, but
Okay.
he followed it from day one, but that's true.
So this will resolve issues regarding payment and
Yes.
possible claims
Back
of
then.
the town against Fredonia, Fredonia against the
Yes,
town.
that's correct.
So it looks like to me we need multiple votes here. So do we have documents that we have to
The
go?
first item is the one you say you have to sign, right?
Okay, an amendment to the agreement with Fredonia. A 9-item agreement.
A motion on that?
Okay.
Well, let me just,
That deletes the paving overlay bid, provides assurance that Fredonia Brothers will pay all subcontractors upon their receipt of the next payment, sets the final amount at $441,551.11.
all right, that's the amended amount, right? That's after taking into consideration the elimination of the paving.
No, 17.
And the, and,
And then
well,
the,
17.5 is still within the 441. We're just not going to issue
Oh, that's
a
right.
warrant.
I, John has my copy.
Okay, so we're going to backing out, the 441 is after taking out the 68,786, right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, I would move that the total contract as amended be set at 441,555.
Second?
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And do you have a motion to sign that amendment? I think we need a motion to sign.
I'll move that the amendment deleting $68,786 be signed.
That's technically a change order, if you motion
Okay,
to
I'm working
refer
on
to
this
that.
page, Rick. This seems to break it out into amendment, change order, certificate,
Yes.
and amendment. So in terms of the attachments to be signed, this relates to the documents we have.
All right, in this document, what is it, 68,000?
Um,
It's,
So he wants this has that one.
so is it 62,000 or is it 68,000?
They may be in reverse order. The reduction is in the amount of 62,000 plus, and that is change order number 1. It might be below change order number 2 in your file. There are 2 change orders.
We actually, no, we didn't get the
have the
initial.
change orders.
Right, they're here then, they're in this packet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make a motion, but right after these.
We just see if we can recognize
Okay.
it.
Here's change order number 2 is right here. That's change order number 1.
All right, so change order number 1 was, let's take a look
We're deleting the overlay bid. Is there an added cost for, or a remaining cost for the, Perdoni doing the castings?
All right, here's the situation. The original contract price was $467,742.30. There are 2 changes that net out to what we just voted, the $441.
Right, so
So
that's the first change, right?
Right, the first change brings it down to $405, and then we're going to go back up by 36.
And then we're going to draw 36.
Yes, that's
Okay,
correct.
so you've got to change one.
So we've actually already set the full price. That's
Well,
not sufficient vote, huh?
We didn't vote signing it though.
We know we voted just to set the contract at
41. But you want to sign each change order.
All right, so we'll vote to sign each change order, which brings us to the 441 we voted.
The 2.
All right, so I'll move the first change order to reduce the original amount by $62,259.13.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I move the second change order to increase the amount by 36,000.
Did you vote on that? Okay. Unanimous.
And I move the second change order to increase the amount by 36,071. Is that 94?
Yes.
94 for a grand total, which we've agreed is 441, 555.11.
I'll second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Here's this.
We'll put it in the pile to sign later.
That's all his.
All right, so what do we get here, number 3?
That should be an authorization for payment, a certificate for payment to the contractor.
Requiring any votes?
All right, we have to vote this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to see the numbers.
Vote to sign the
Final payment.
certificate for payment.
Yes.
All right,
Sign.
this one,
Three additional.
I'm just looking at the other document here. All right, this one is for $105,549.65, which leaves parenthetically $17,500.
500, right.
All right, so I'll move the payment of $105,549.65.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
That's number 4.
And then,
Number 4 is actually with Earth Tech, so
Do
the
you wanna
document
do
here
this?
reads,
This one is
This-
amendment number,
the 4th item we're doing is truly reads in legalese here. It reads, this amendment number 2 with Earth Tech. So we would move to amend the Earth Tech contract.
like, what is it again?
Let's see if it matches here. Let's take a look at the other one.
Is it on there or not?
Let's see what they all say.
47,000.
60,000. Let's see. This one's going up 60 to 75.
16,800. Where's this 47,000?
No, the 47,000 is falling out of the paper here.
Yeah. Just the paragraph, can you-
Amendment C, in the back there's C.
is it on the last page?
C reads deleting 60,800 and inserting 75,905. Last page is just a signature page.
I think to answer that, Rick, you have to compare it to the original contract. Paul's 47,000 is compared to the original price. There apparently was an earlier agreement to, for other reasons, an earlier addendum, amendment. I don't have the original contract in front of me, but I'm reading this to say that number C there would increase the original price by,
See, what do
see
you,
how he says as amended by amendment number 1?
which document are you looking at?
I'm looking at the amendment,
Oh,
That, he's looking at that.
page 2, item C.
Yeah, the accompanying memo has us looking for 47,000.
I think what he's saying is, from compared with the original contract price, the phraseology they've used in C C is to amend an early amendment, this,
I'm gonna hold this till next week. This is, you know, I just, it's just
Yeah, I wanted very much for Paul to come in, and this all came, a lot of it came into us today. The letter I faxed you this morning.
well, this thing, okay, paragraph 4 doesn't agree with the contract.
Yeah.
You take a look at paragraph 4.
It might go back to the
the
first, but
original
it needs,
contract, yes.
it
Correct.
would have to be
Correct.
clarified.
There's also a mention of one original of an amendment to the agreement, and I don't, do you have that?
Where is that? Is that in that thing?
These are all number twos.
4 copies of amendment number 2.
Right, there were 4 copies of this. Here's the fourth one.
This is 94, yep. Okay. That's your cover letter.
So, let's defer that.
I'll just find that.
You should put-
All right.
these are all, yeah. Yeah.
So we'll tie that up next week. I guess we need the meeting next week.
Yep, maybe 17.
That'd be short one.
Okay. Famous last words.
Could be,
That may be, yeah, maybe a typo in that last
it might have
paragraph.
been 17, not 47,
On that last
because the
item.
difference is 17.5.
I think that's my copy there.
What?
That's my, I gave you my copy of the document.
I mean, if you're going from a $13,000 contract to a $60,000 contract,
Okay.
Yeah,
I think it's a
You
typo.
understand that doesn't make sense.
this may be a
Is
typo.
it 17? Is it, is it 17?
I think we can cut it in half.
Okay, anything else for John?
I don't think so.
If you receive anything in writing regarding, you said you were awaiting something, right? If you
Here,
could
yes,
fax it to us.
absolutely, yeah. Does your fax tie in with your computer?
It is in the computer.
Because they try faxing something in the afternoon and in the morning. Should they call before they fax, or?
No, it just, if the computer crashes.
Has it, what, a 7-page limit or something?
No, I'm just not gonna print off a computer 20 pages, but the day they were faxing it, sometimes the phone line, sometimes those wires just jar the computer incorrectly, and she left a message. The best thing to do would be just leave a message and then I'll check it, but it only happens occasionally.
She tried that afternoon and tried the morning. I said, call, saying I see.
We shut it down in the morning
Yeah.
to clear it out.
Right.
So I did was shut it
Okay.
down. But I have a backup, so if I am there, she could call and I could send the backup on her.
We're item
Thank you.
10. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Does the board wish to approve the following block party requests? We have Grafton Avenue, Ferncroft Road, Martin Road, and Valley Road Extension.
I move these in mass.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. We have a letter from Richard Ring, Precinct 2 Town Meeting member, regarding the master plan for the Lower Neponset River. And Rick and I both attended a meeting last night of the Neponset Greenway Group. And this issue did come up. It was a long agenda, but this issue did come up. And actually, it was raised by, I think, some people from Mattapan, because
Over by the Ryan Playground, people from the
Yeah.
Ryan Playground area.
the Richard Kleiman mentioned that the Neponset Greenway Security Plan for the area between the gas tanks on Boston Harbor and the Central Avenue T Station was being reviewed internally by the MDC, and that within a week or two it would go out to public safety agencies. And because he did not mention any plan for the area between Central Avenue and Mattapan, the people from Mattapan were concerned about that. Additionally, we learned that the state had voted in a deficiency budget $8 million in cash for the Pope John II Park, and that would probably only finish half of the park, the half that was the old...
Howell Street Lane.
Not the old Howell Street
Oh, the drive-in?
landfill, the drive-in, because the drive-in is not as much of a problem as capping a landfill, so that the $8 million would not do the whole park, and they would definitely do the part that's going to be quicker and more easily done, which is the drive-in site. The landfill is, they still haven't picked an engineer for the comprehensive site assessment, so they've got a lot more work to
And
do
you
on the
told us
landfill.
15 million total, I think they needed to cap that landfill.
I think it may be more than that. I think it was 50 million to cap the landfill and then additional money for the park. But, so there was also a concern that the safety and security plan wouldn't address the issues related to the park, except in a very general sense. But the issues were specifically raised with regard to the Mattapan part of the project by the people who are looking at the Bryant Street playground. So this issue continues to cause interest and concern, and we do expect that we'll see a plan probably in the next few weeks. After the meeting, Rich Kleiman said he would provide this board with a copy of the plan.
I think Richard Wayne's point, though, is well-founded, that we are looking for a comprehensive security plan, not a piecemeal security plan. And that's been the request of the board since going back a year and a half. So the fact that they may submit just a piece of the plan for the section from Central Avenue to Milton Village, that's not the whole plan.
And additionally, they did pass out a letter from the T, which has closed the gate at the Milton T station because of issues about liability and safety.
This is a gate in a fence that runs parallel to the tracks. If people carry a canoe, it's really inconvenient.
Well, it's fairly dangerous crossing the streetcar track with a canoe.
As a stop, as a trolley car stop, it's probably the best location you could find.
Well, one of the members there last night, who lives in Cedar Grove, suggested that they in fact have a rail system right down the right-of-way that they own, right to the bridge. This is a resident who lives probably a half mile away. He said, listen, he thought it was a liability issue, and I think he's right. The issue was, he said, let's portage your canoe right along the right-of-way, which is owned by ABC, straight down to the river.
And build a new canoe launch as opposed to using the landing.
He said, trying to cut across the streetcar tracks, I can understand, he said, why a railroad official would not want you to cross the railroad tracks for the canoe.
Every time you get off, as you're coming, you're headed west, every time you get off the trolley, you cross the track.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, but if you're trying to move a canoe across and you drop the canoe as the streetcar's approaching.
but the streetcar has to stop at the stop.
It feeds the canoe.
All right, we'll work on it.
Okay,
We'll work on
well,
it.
anyway, we do
You two are
expect to
taking
see...
care of that, huh?
We do expect to see something
Canoe launches.
within 2 to 4 weeks. So that's an update. Does the board wish to approve and sign Chapter 90 reimbursement requests and a final report?
I'll move this.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're up to item 15. Does the board wish to appoint a member of the Capital Budget Advisory Committee? And on Tuesday night, the school committee voted to ask Brian Walsh to appoint Brian Walsh as their representative to this committee, so the selectmen would issue an appointment form to him. Well, it's a selectmen's committee, so he, I think he gets a form.
We
So give him-
grab it for him.
Additionally, we still have an opening for one non-affiliated citizen, and I did consult with Mary Cobb on the school committee and got a list of several names from her and from the superintendent, and they're all good, good candidates, and I suggested several candidates whom they thought were good candidates. I did try to contact one person today and was not able to reach him, but I do hope that we'll have an appointment for the non-affiliated citizen a week from now. We also had a offer from Bob Ahern on the Park Commission that he would be willing to serve, but in trying to make a committee that would represent all of the interests of the town, we do have an appointment for a member of the Board of Selectmen and one for a member of the school committee, and then we're trying to have non-affiliated people because I think if we appointed a park commission, we would be hearing immediately from the library trustees and the council on aging and some of the other groups, the cemetery.
I today asked, and John Cronin faxed me, the consistency of the committee, and there is no real stipulation that says the citizen has to be unattached. So we are postponing our judgment, but if there are other names submitted to you, since it's the full committee that appoints this, I'd like to know who the other names are. And if anyone is interested, I think I just received tonight both Mr. Ahern's letter was just given to us by you, but when letters come in for appointments to these committees, since it's the whole committee that reviews it, I feel the information has to be photocopied and given to us. And I'd like a complete list of the names.
What's left, Mr. Ahern?
Mr. Ahern had delivered a letter. He called me right after August 22nd saying I delivered a letter to the selectman's office. I hope you'll consider it, period. And it wasn't in my packet, so tonight when I had asked, Kathy had it. You got it tonight now?
Yes. I don't think I got it back again.
So remember you made extra copies?
It may be in here somewhere.
So you will get a copy of Mr. Ahern's
Right.
letter.
But I did call Barbara Ahern today and say that, okay, here we go. No, that's from Barbara Brown. First of all, with regard to the Capital Budget Committee, when the Capital Budget Committee began, which was in 1994, it was given a pretty open-ended charge, which was to make a lot of decisions itself as a committee. And so that a lot of what has developed over a period of time. The actions and the directions that the committee has gone off in have been to a large part determined by the committee as the situation has developed. Certainly, this board could choose to appoint an affiliated person, but in my opinion, the other boards would be very unhappy.
Well, I just feel that, the whole board has to, especially since he's called up to say, will you consider it? And I said, I hadn't got your letter, but I'd like a list of all the residents that you're discussing, or you gave us one resume, are there any others?
No, and in general, I would just say that sometimes it's embarrassing to people whose names are suggested for a committee who are not the person who had chosen to have their names released to the public or discussed on TV. So I generally do not, I'm not even going to mention the person whom I called today.
Well, if someone's not interested...
In case he declines, and he may not wish his name to be proposed.
It's very simple that if someone's not interested, when they submit a letter to us, the board members, they can say, please, my name's for public release or not. Because in appointing committees, it's important that we see the whole span of residents who might be willing to serve. Especially since each one of us represents a different constituency. I mean, that's my hope, is that these committees will represent a wider background, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd also like if you could give us an update further. I didn't get to watch Tuesday night's meeting, and you had the meeting with the Brian Walsh. Could you give us an update on what happened at both of those meetings?
Well, first of all, do you want me to report on...
Did you have your first meeting? Capital Advisory, right?
No, the Capital Budget Advisory Committee has not met since before town meeting.
Okay.
I did have a meeting with Mary Cobb last Thursday night, and she chose to bring Brian Walsh to that meeting, and we agreed that it would be a good idea to have Charlie McCarthy at that meeting. He's a member of the Capital Budget Advisory Committee as well. And if you want to ask any questions, I could expand on this, but to be brief, because it's
Just
a late hour. We discussed the purpose of the Capital Budget Advisory Committee. There was an exchange of information on the history of the Capital Budget Advisory Committee, when it was formed, that it's appointed by the Board of Selectmen, who it reports to, how the priorities are determined, and there was some discussion of the underground storage tanks. And at a conclusion of the meeting, there was a suggestion by the chairman of the warrant committee that he would go to the school committee meeting on Tuesday night and report on some of these issues. And I suggested that the school committee attend the joint meeting of the warrant committee and the capital budget advisory committee in October that will be related to the school capital budget requests. There was a series of joint meetings last year between the warrant committee and the capital budget advisory committee, so that the department heads could come in and make their presentations one time to both committees, and both committees could hear the questions and the answers rather than have the departments have to go out 2 evenings. And the chairman of the school committee suggested that when the capital budget advisory committee reports to the Board of Selectmen and makes a recommendation, which the selectmen submit as an article, that they also, as a courtesy, report to the school committee. And that's really for good communication, that the school committee will hear directly what the recommendation of this committee is with regard to their request as well as the request for the other departments of the town. I think it was a very positive meeting. There were some perceptions that needed to be discussed and issues to be clarified, and I think everybody really tried to open the channels of communication and clear up any misunderstandings.
So what's the meeting in October again? Did you say that's an annual meeting?
Last year, for the first time, because this capital budget process is new and it's developing, and every year it's a little different as the committee sees a better way to do things. We even have the committee, through its chairman, Ed Spellman, has actually sent out new forms this year, which we think will work better. Last year, there was a series of 2 or 3 meetings by the warrant committee and the capital budget advisory committee together in the warrant committee room. The department heads came in and made their presentations of what their department was requesting for capital items. And there was an opportunity for questions by both boards. And as I said, there was a good sharing of information, that everybody was hearing the same thing, and obviously it was much more efficient for the department heads to make one stop rather than 2 stops.
I know other towns have done something that I remember we did when I was on the warrant committee. Once the information all comes through, they had a tour of the town to visually see what the capital needs were. They had school committee, what we did, warrant committee, school committee, Board of Selectmen, and I think that's very productive. Other towns actually even allow town meeting members, they recommend, if you'd like to come and take this tour so you'll see what we're talking about. So did you ever do that last year?
The warrant, I think the schools generally have a tour of the schools every year for the warrant committee, and capital budget advisory committee members are invited. I know we went on the tour of the schools in 1995 that Frank Desmond got the van, and we all rode around town together. And the capital budget advisory committee did go on that. I did not go on a tour of the schools last year, but the warrant committee did, and certainly was open to the capital budget advisory committee. There was also a tour of the DPW yard, and capital budget advisory committee members, some of them went to that, some warrant committee members went to that.
I'd like to attend this year's tour.
Fine.
I think that it's important to do it annually, and so when a member of the school committee might be concerned that you don't understand our needs, aside from having a child in just one of the schools, we can visually see it with them.
That's no problem. I'm sure they'd be happy to have selectmen along. In fact, in 95, the selectmen were all invited to go along.
That one will be on for next week.
Then the other issue was Tuesday night, I just went to the school committee meeting. Charlie made an excellent presentation, and I felt that as a chairman of the Board of Selectmen, I should not be participating in school committee discussions, and additionally, I hadn't reported back to this board, so I just spoke very briefly. I do want to hand out the documents that Charlie McCarthy gave out at the school committee meeting.
Yes, I said it tonight.
Some of them seem to be a little chopped off.
So this is what he has passed out to both the warrant committee and school committee?
He passed out the documents for this year, the instructions, the forms. And then he passed out, begins with this page. This was, the next few pages were passed out at town meeting. They were the recommendations of the capital budget committee. before and after the warrant committee requested a cut. One of the issues that was who requested the cut in the original recommendation of the Capital Budget Committee, and it's quite clear that the warrant committee requested a reduction, and the Capital Budget Committee change was due to that request from the warrant committee, an attempt to take a prioritized approach to having to make cuts. And then after that, there's a series of pages which are the 5-year plan, which at this point is a listing of requests by departments, and departments are now adopting the procedure, which is to request items in different fiscal years. So if they see the need to replace a truck in 5 years, they see that it's really going to need replacement, that need can be anticipated ahead of time.
When they photocopy these pages, can they shrink them so that we
Yeah.
have all the information?
This is something got chopped off here. And then the last section was done primarily in fiscal 1997, but it was a attempt by the Capital Budget Advisory Committee to determine what is the proper amount of debt for the town to have. And in order to do that, we looked at what other towns took as a target, and then we looked at what the town's debt was for old projects that we're still paying the principal and interest on, and possible future debt needs. And so there's an analysis of what is the right amount of debt, neither too high nor too low. It's as bad for a town to not carry debt and not be repairing their buildings as it is to have too much of debt.
We're letting things go.
So 5% is the target, and we're not there yet, but we're getting close.
Famous sign?
Oh, yes. Okay, so back to item 17, the famous sign.
Did you ever get to see one? I never.
I've seen one of the, not the wood carved signs, I've seen the other.
The one that was removed.
No one has ever seen this sign before. This is a custom design to make it look like Milton Village and East Milton Square. It is a wood sign. It's hand carved with the Texas chisel tab, and the chiseled out, the letters are painted white. It's chiseled out for the eagle, and the eagle is painted blue and with a white feathering on it. It's a standard Bank of Boston green color, and the post is that color. It's a 10-inch post instead of the 21-inch that they were pushing.
So wide.
I think this is more scale. It's custom designed. Right on the paper with Don Robbins and Jim Nayan. They actually cut a 20-inch post in half in order to make this design that you are looking at.
Is that a CAD/CAM machine downstairs?
Yes, the scissors. Tape. So we think this reflects the type of the concerns that the board was expressing. The lighting is from the ground. It'll be floodlights on the ground shining up. There will not be any lights hanging from the sign. That was tasteful, and it'll be double-sided. It'll be angled like at the corner of Elliott Street and Adams Street, so there won't be two signs.
Will it be in the same location that the sign is in now at Adams Street and Elliott Street?
Is that, I think that's the corner, inside the fence on the lawn?
It's inside, it's definitely on Adams Street, not Elliott. You can't see it from Elliott. You can
I
only
think
see
this,
from
he
Adams.
intends that both Franklin Street and Adams in East Milton, he intended to recommend it be at an angle.
At an angle?
Yeah, so that you could see it from
Okay,
here.
I can't visualize. I went down and looked at the sign that they had now and felt that,
We'll have a comment.
okay. All right, if he
We're
wants to,
trying to.
I know.
You tell me what angle you want it, and we'll do it that
Okay,
way.
I was looking at what he had, what's there now, and I would agree to a pole sign on Adam Street because you couldn't see it otherwise.
All right, post on, so
But
that
the one
perpendicular
in-
to Adams Street.
Yeah.
Near.
Where it is now, in the same
Near where it
location.
is now, and that one in East Milton, how do you want that?
I'm not too happy about a pole sign. I'd still like to see,
Oh, nice
see
logo.
whether they could do a ground sign.
And if they did, they could probably do the same thing, not one or two short
Right.
poles, about a foot high or something. Is that what you're looking for?
I think
That's
so.
the Moyne?
That would look so much nicer.
I think it looks so much nicer that the old one's gone.
Yes.
But down at the lower mills, because there is a lot of fairly high shrubbery and trees there,
Yeah.
and the fence, you couldn't use a ground sign. So this,
You want to go out subject to those conditions?
Well, this one is ready for the village, right?
if it's at the same location.
Question, is same
What's the
location,
application?
same
What does the
orientation.
application say? It must say same.
It is. This
This
is
is
15.
this is getting
It's
rather
15.
casual.
Just tell me what you want.
I'll move this for the same location, let's see if he likes that.
Second.
This is in the village,
At the village, oh.
Even
same
with-
location,
even with
same
the,
orientation.
Elliott Street.
Even with the vivid green post?
I'll move the sign at the village, at the same
Okay.
location, the same location.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Now, what about the square?
Would like to see
Monument.
a sign close to the ground.
Similar to
All right.
the Quincy location down the street. I mean,
The-
wood sign.
To the
The
former.
height, the height, yeah.
South Boston.
This is at the
Old South
South
Boston.
South Boston Savings Bank.
I was in Weston last week, and there are 3 banks in the village business area of Weston, and I'm sure the people of Weston find their way to the bank, but those banks are very tasteful, very understated.
Well, especially where big banks farther back, even the large sign's not good.
So, what voted,
The only one we voted was the village.
We only voted the village.
that's the good vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wants to vote a low one, so we'll have to take it.
18?
Okay, this is, we're in, AT&T is interested in attaching an antenna to the water tank
Well, they're doing studies.
to do a study. Okay, that's fine to do a study. We seem to be missing some language in the,
How much will they pay us
in the
for?
last,
20,000 to do a study.
No, that's a surety.
that's a,
Well, it's actually
Non-refundable.
a payment to you.
Non-refundable.
Not an annual payment?
non-refundable
Just to
fee.
do the study, this is,
20,000 a year.
well, wait a minute, that's what you negotiate after. This is for 20,000 to do the study.
Well, any license or lease would have to comply with the rules of the NBC on which land is located.
So whether they're successful or not,
Yeah.
we'd get $20,000.
Now, the question is, would the revenue, if there's an annual fee, go to the MDC, to the town, or to both?
That's subject
Or
to,
That's
it's
subject to
further,
discussion.
yeah.
further,
Yes.
what?
And we also have a RFP put out by the city of Quincy
This is just one of several that I have.
for lease of space on city water tanks.
I think we ought to take this in consideration with what's been done by Ken. We've been doing informal discussions, and frankly, I've been involved in some of them. And I think we've been trying to offer informally to the various vendors town properties. For example, the hospital is in a prime location in the police station because of the height of the hospital. So even though I talked with the police station and 3 or 4 companies, in reality, the hospital was a primary source, really, because of the height.
And you said Canton did recently
Canton
buy a town-wide one, right?
Right, and even the DPW yard is another idea, but again, the hospital was close enough to the DPW yard that they thought the hospital was a better location.
Now, I heard NYNEX or some company was